Early 60s, Los Angeles, or the city of Watts, was offering housing vouchers, right? And so poor black families from the South were like, I'm getting up out of here, right? Getting out of this racial tension, getting out of this history of Jim Crow, we getting up out of here. Landed us in Watts. Little did we know we were stepping into a war zone. And if you understand that type of economic and migration, then maybe the Watts riots would make a little more sense. Because if you're a black family from the South and then step into this promised land and find the same type of racism, you're like, we just left that, I'm not going through this. We set the city on fire, right? My grandmother took that bait, landed us on 73rd and San Pedro, which is where my father, somehow or another, met this wonderful woman from Northeast DC and paired together, brought my sister into the world. Now, somewhere between 73rd and San Pedro, while I was somewhere in my infantile ages to the time that I got my first skateboard, we moved to here. Now, when I say here, I mean literally the San Gabriel Valley, the 626. I grew up right on the other side of the freeway over there. I'm from West Covina, California, with the 626. You understand what I'm trying to say right now? So with that type of situation, it got me going probably for the next decade and a half, every weekend down the 10 freeway, right onto the 110 freeway, getting off on Gage, going to 73rd and San Pedro to visit my grandmother. Now, during that time, if you're familiar with Los Angeles, you're going to cross an area where the 10 and the 101 meet. And right there's the LA River. Now, you out-of-towners, especially Coloradans. Now, when I say the river, you got the wrong visual, okay? It's not like a river. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, it's paved with concrete, right? And on the side of that, I remember being in the back seat seeing these larger-than-life murals. They were the size of buildings, full color, full character. There was these things called graffiti crews. Now, graffiti crews, some of them were legendary, that now actually have city streets named after them. Crews like the UTI crew, SKA, CBS, these guys were creating a culture. Now, if you were born in South Central and grew up in La Puente, gangbanging is not an option, because if you're familiar with La Puente and you black in that city, you're not going to gangbang. What you're going to be is what's called a liability. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's a black joke. It's a black joke. I'm a liability because I'm in a Latino neighborhood, so I can't bang with them, right? And since I don't live where my cousins live on 67th, I can't rep their city either. But what I did see were these murals, these larger-than-life things that resonated with the little artist that I was going to become. And at that time, I remember being like, whatever environment and cultural experience, I ain't had that vocabulary, but whatever that was that made that, I wanted to be a part of it. Whatever it was that caused dudes down at Venice Beach to spin on their heads, I was like, whatever that is, I'm trying to be a part of that. And apparently, if it's birthed here in LA, I like where I'm from. Now, what you guys understand as urban leaders is that, sometimes the news be lying to you. You hear all these stories about how a city is in decay and how everybody dying, is gang violence, is death, is this and all that. But you know different. You know that's not the whole story. Right? And I don't know if you knew then when you were seeing in the news when we were having our drug wars and our gang wars and all these things were happening. Listen, I was in the middle of that. I didn't take that bait. I saw these walls and I was like, look, I'm trying to be a part of this. Whatever that is, I'm trying to be a part of. Now, during that time, somehow or another, the Lord introduced himself to my parents. My mother went on an immediate trajectory into sanctification and became this amazing woman of God. My father, he kind of came up front and said the prayer. You know what I'm saying? Right. So Pops, not so much, right? Can't say he wasn't absent. He was just kind of absent-minded. I don't know if that makes sense, right? And in that situation, there was a lot of giants and inner demons that he didn't necessarily deal with. That he, rather than dealing with, he kind of hid. kind of varied. He was very good with words, very smooth. My father was a former Black Panther, so he's very smooth, he was very smart. And because of that, the ladies were effortless for him, right? Now, if that situation ended up breaking up the home that we actually lived in, but I actually knew my father very well. He's actually, as a matter of fact, if I were to read about my father in a book, I'd be like, he's my hero, right? So anyway, that somehow or another broke up our family. But I have no daddy hole for a strange reason. The strange reason is that, number one, well, the city became my father.